So it's been 2 months since I got laid off. The quick and dirty backstory is that I got affected in the second round of layoffs in 2025 at my now former company. There was a first layoff in January, which I did survive, but I was also demoted from being an engineering manager back to being a software engineer. After that, I pretty much cut out all of my extra spending and started polishing my resume and basically went into a soft launch of job hunting. And then in April, I was part of the much bigger reduction in force, or RIF, which is a fancy way of saying I got laid off. And if you want a quick update on my now former company, from what I hear, apparently is looking for a buyer, or it's in the process of being sold. I don't know. So you could kind of put two and two together and figure it out. But yeah, it sucks for the company, but that confirms to me this wasn't a performance issue. At least not my performance. But even knowing that, there's still part of me that feels not great. There's definitely some shame involved still. And the reason why is because this is the first time in like over 20 years of working that I've had to leave a job involuntarily. So you might notice I'm not in my usual desk setup. This is actually my fun desk in the office where I play video games and edit videos. My old work desk is actually over there, and I haven't really sat there since about a week after getting laid off. I filmed some stuff, kind of like a journal entry. I just don't want to sit at that desk because it feels like bad mojo, you know what I mean? We're just gonna hang out at the fun desk until I get over it. So it's been 2 months, and my mood, of course, has improved. It's not as bad as it was in the beginning. And the key for me has definitely been keeping busy. A lot of that is obviously job prep and interviews, which we'll get into in a minute. I've also been putting my energy into figuring out other ways to bring in money, side hustles. Some of them you could probably already guess, like this channel, but I think it's worth brainstorming. And if you're interested, we'll go through my monthly budget to see what we're working with during this funemployment period. Before we do any of that, let's just talk about the job hunt. At the beginning, I thought I was super prepared for this layoff, so much so that the week I got laid off, I already had an interview lined up with a hiring manager for an engineering manager role. I already did the initial recruiter interview before getting laid off, and then the interview after that was with the person I would report to if I got the offer. Now, this interview actually came from a referral. In fact, I knew 3 people working at that company. A friend even recently went through the same interview because they were hiring for multiple engineering manager roles. So I had all the clues in this process, and I had a lot of inside intel. Another thing is that I even spoke to the hiring manager previous to the interview. He actually seemed to really like me, said that I would be a great fit. He told this to the person who referred me. Honestly, this interview felt like it was my job to lose. Then I had that interview like 2 days after getting laid off. But I was still so traumatized by the layoff that I couldn't get it together. So I bombed it. I was stumbling over my words. My answers to his questions were just so bad. You know how you think about conversations you had and you just like cringing the whole time? My energy during that interview was just really low energy. It was just really bad. So yeah, I just blew it. And lesson learned, give yourself some time after a traumatic event. To be fair, my job search pretty much started in January after that first layoff, and I was only looking for engineering manager roles at that time. There was about 4 jobs that I applied to. One was referral, and the rest were like recruiters who approached me. It didn't really go anywhere, and this is kind of a foreshadowing of sorts. So obviously, most of my applications were from April to now, and I do have detailed tracking for them because there's also a requirement for unemployment. So we could take a closer look at that. So starting on the week I got laid off until now, I submitted 43 applications. 32 of them were cold applications, which means I didn't know anyone at the company and submitted an application through their website or LinkedIn or wherever. And if you do the math, you'll see that the 14 rejection emails plus 18 ghosted has a total of 32. That means 0 of those applications went anywhere at all. Now, 11 applications did get to the initial recruiter interview or screening process. That's because they were either referrals or they're from recruiters or someone from the company, or I reached out to them directly on LinkedIn. That's pretty much why you got to play the LinkedIn game. So out of those 11 recruiter screens, 8 moved me to the next stage, which usually is a hiring manager interview, but it could also be a technical test. And after these 8 interviews, that's where it basically stopped. And yeah, every single one of them turned out to be a rejection. I always ask for feedback, and most of them did actually give me feedback. And the number one, or sometimes only feedback they gave me was not enough experience. which is really frustrating because I'm in this weird limbo where I have about 7 months of official engineering manager experience before I was demoted back to being an engineer. And apparently, the job market for engineering managers suck right now. A lot of companies are trying to create flatter organizations, which means they're laying off all their middle managers, which also means there's fewer manager roles to go around. So now I'm in the case where you have experienced directors or senior engineering managers who've also been laid off and they're willing to downgrade. And now they're competing for the same roles that I'm looking at. After talking to my friends, mentors, and pretty much everyone in my network, they basically confirmed what I was already starting to think, that I need to go back to looking for individual contributor roles, which means going back to being an engineer. It's kind of funny or ironic because I just released a video debating if we are in a tech recession. And my answer was that I didn't think so. I'm still trying to be optimistic. There are still jobs out there and people are still getting hired, but it's just that the requirements are changing or they want more years of experience or something. And my goal right now is to just keep up and stay sharp. So that's the plan as far as job hunting is going, which means I need to update my resume again because it's currently tailored for leadership positions, but it shouldn't be too hard because it's been less than a year since I moved to management and then back. I also have to start putting out the feelers about this change again. I'm kind of kicking myself there because I had a bunch of referrals for IC roles right when I got laid off, but I passed on them because I was looking for manager roles specifically. And now 2 months later, those roles are probably long gone or they're close to getting filled. That's not to say I'm not going to follow up on them, but realistically, my chances there aren't going to be great, but I'm still going to try, even though it does feel like I'm starting back at square one. All right, let's talk about money. What am I actually working with here? Okay, let's look at the essential monthly bills, which are rounded up. My biggest expense is my share of the mortgage, which my husband and I split. So keep that in mind. These aren't the full amounts, but they're the share of my bills. This is something we've been doing since we met, and it works for us. It also makes the math a little bit easier. For utilities, we have electric, heating, oil, water, internet, trash, and recycling. Then there's insurance for the house, health insurance, and dental insurance. Now, this column here is individual costs. It's not shared. I pay these in full. Here's my car insurance and the approximate cost for gas. I've cut most subscriptions, but kept Netflix and YouTube Premium for entertainment. But if I need to, I can cut or downgrade these services, so I'm okay with keeping it for now. So groceries aren't bad. I do intermittent fasting, like 2 meals a day and sometimes OMAD. And my husband has some dietary requirements. And if he doesn't want my cooking, he gets his own food, which is like half the time. I do donate about $20 a month to the ACLU and a local food bank. But if things get bad, I can stop my donations. But I can't afford it right now, so I'll continue because it's not that much. Okay, so this might seem weird, but I still want to pay myself, my future self specifically. I am dollar cost averaging into my Roth IRA every month. For 2025, the total limit is $7,000 for someone under 50 like myself. So I am putting in about $584 each month to keep that going. The Roth IRA is basically one of those things I can stop paying into if things get bad, but it's okay right now, so I'm gonna keep going. As you can see, the mortgage is my only debt. And I pay my credit card in full every month, so I don't carry any credit card debt. Since I started cutting down expenses after that first layoff in January, I was already pretty lean. The $180 is essentially the average of all my discretionary spending since January. I don't really go shopping unless I absolutely need it, like to get shampoo, toiletries, batteries, etc. Lastly, here's this small $50 budget for startup costs. It's for some tools I need to try to build those side hustles I mentioned earlier. Now, when we add all that up, my total monthly expenses comes out to $3,226.25. So that's going out. What's coming in? This is going to be real quick because my main source of income right now is unemployment. I am in Massachusetts and the maximum weekly benefit is $894 a week. This gives me a total of $3,576 that I get from unemployment each month. I have an income of $3,576 minus $3,226.25 gives me about $350 remaining. So what am I gonna do with that extra $350? I'm gonna save it in case I don't find a job and unemployment runs out. I think it's a decent budget with a little bit of a buffer. But that's also assuming that there would be no emergencies while I'm unemployed and that I will actually find a job before I run out of unemployment. So I need more income to shore things up a bit and give me a peace of mind because I'm a very anxious person. I do have long-term investments, but we're not touching those. That belongs to my future self. That's the absolutely last resort, like save the house kind of money. And we're not close to that, so I'm not going to touch it, but I still want to make an effort because I want to be safe. So that brings us to having side hustles. Ugh, I really hate that phrase. It sounds so like slimy, right? Anyways, idea number 1 is what you're watching right now. It's content creation, specifically on YouTube. I'm not monetized yet, but I have over 1,000 subs and I am getting close to the 4,000 watch hours. So I have this bad habit of like filming everything and then doing nothing with the footage. Okay, not technically nothing, but I'm just really slow at editing and I just didn't have a ton of time back then. And I'd skip a bunch of stuff or delay things. But my point is I have a lot of material to work with. The best part is that I don't have any startup costs, technically, because I bought all of this back in 2025 when I had a job. So I could make these videos for basically $0 additional dollars. It's a fun hobby, fun to me, with a potential income stream, maybe. Now, idea number 2 is decluttering. My husband and I have been talking about doing this whole digital nomad thing for a while now, but we just have a ton of crap. This layoff is a big motivator to finally try to downsize to maybe get to that point eventually. So I'm listing a bunch of stuff on Mercari and Facebook Marketplace, and I'm also checking out this local flea market that I didn't realize we had and should be interesting. Maybe I'll like make a video of it. Since I have the time now, I might as well just declutter and get a few bucks at the same time. Idea number 3 is affiliate marketing. It's pretty passive. If you see some affiliate links in my video description, feel free to buy through it. I get a small kickback at no extra cost to you. I'm not really pushing this because it would be kind of hypocritical of me if I'm trying to declutter while convincing people to buy more crap. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. And finally, the big one that I hinted at earlier, now that I have the time, I wanna try to build a SaaS application. SaaS stands for Software as a Service. That mysterious $50 in my budget is to pay for subscriptions like Quad and Supabase to try to get ideas off the ground. I've been using the coding assistants since last year and they do help me build things much faster. My problem then, of course, was that I didn't really have time and I didn't have any good ideas to build, but it was fun for what it was to build dumb projects. In my opinion, I think the best ideas are the ones where you are solving your own problems. I'm now thinking about all the things that would help me with content creation or, other parts of my new daily life, like selling stuff on Facebook or whatever, right? So even if these projects don't make any money, at least it'll solve a problem for me. I think building stuff with code is just fun. So it's also cheap entertainment as well. So that's my master plan, and it does feel like a lot when I say it out loud, but what do you think? And more importantly, what do you think I'm missing? I would love to hear other side hustle ideas or income streams you think I should try. And just to put a positive spin in this whole layoff thing, unemployment in Massachusetts can last up to 30 weeks, which means that's 7.5 months. So I want to thank Massachusetts for giving me the seed investment for my startup. Yes, it sounds silly. So in between the full-time job of looking for a job, trying to be a solo founder, and then there's this whole content creator thing, I figure something's got to stick, right? I thought getting laid off would mean I would have a break, but I honestly feel 100 times busier now than I was when I had a job. I'm annoyingly A-type, and staying this busy is my way of coping with my anxiety. It does give me a sense of purpose and control in a situation that doesn't feel very in control. Now, I know it's a lot, and I'm cognizant of how this extra pressure can burn me out. So I'm okay if I have to deprioritize some things on the list if I find out that I need to. Besides staying busy, I'm also trying to be intentional about how I'm working through my unemployment. And in times like this, having a routine is just super important. When you feel like things are out of control, I find that having structure is the medicine. I try to wake up at a usual time. This is my new work desk. I do try to work normal hours. I treat it like work or school. And then I end my day and then I try to relax. Got to do it for my mental health. And staying active is also a priority. I try to go on daily walks at minimum, or I work out in the home gym, and we don't pay for this gym because we've been slowly building it for years. I'm also making sure to connect with people. I'm treating my weekends like weekends and spending time with my family. I'm also learning to be okay with asking for help, whether it's for a job referral or just to complain. So that's the 2-month update. Not gonna lie, it's been a roller coaster. If you're going through something similar, you're not alone. I'm here. It sucked at first, but I'm still alive. And if you are going through the same thing, my biggest piece of advice is to figure out your budget if you haven't already. You gotta know your numbers. You gotta know how long you can survive for before you run out of cash. This is basically knowing what your spending is. You don't need an app to figure this out. You can use a spreadsheet like I did, or just write it down in a notebook. It might not be the most fun thing in the world to do, but knowing where you stand is the first step to making a plan and then taking control of your life, or coping with your anxiety. Anyways, I hope this was helpful or at least a bit entertaining, and I'll talk to you another time.